How is it literally possible that pollsters can predict the winner of a massive national election? We're talking over 300 million people just by talking to like 1,000 of them. Think about that for a second.
That exact gap is what we're tackling today. Seriously, how can 1,000 people accurately represent 300 million? It sounds like absolute magic, right? But it isn't. It's the highly structured, incredibly cost-effective, and just absolutely fascinating science of statistics. By the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how that mathematical magic actually works. We're covering the difference between descriptive and inferential statistics, how to separate a massive population from a manageable sample, that absolutely critical distinction between a parameter and a statistic, and finally, how to identify variables and data types.
All right, Section 1, the power of data and probability. Statistics is really just the science of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data to make sense of our world. But to pull that off, we rely on a very specific mathematical tool, probability.
Okay, so what's the deal with the number 12,012? Well, there was this English statistician, Carl Pearson, and he really wanted to study randomness. So he took a fair coin and just started flipping it. Not 10 times, not 100 times, he flipped it 24,000 times. And out of the whole shebang, it landed on heads exactly 12,012 times, which is incredibly close to perfectly half. This perfectly illustrates a foundational rule. Even when a single event is totally random, if you repeat it enough times, a super predictable pattern emerges. Probability is how we study that randomness.
Now, once we actually have data, we basically do two things with it. First up, descriptive statistics. Just like it sounds, this is all about organizing and summarizing. If you're building a graph or calculating an average, you're just describing the data you have. But then we have inferential statistics. This is where we really level up. We use probability to draw confident conclusions. It's that massive leap from saying, hey, here's what our data shows, to saying, here's what we can confidently infer about the entire world based on this data.
Section 2. Population versus sample. To actually make that inferential leap, we need to zoom in a bit and talk about how we study really large groups. The absolute most crucial thing here is understanding the difference between a population and a sample. Think of a population as the entire collection of people or things you're studying, literally everything. Let's make this super concrete. Imagine you're cooking a massive, giant pot of soup. That whole pot, that's your population. Now, you want to know if it needs more salt. Are you going to chug the entire pot to find out? Obviously not. You just take one spoonful. That spoonful is your sample. It's just a representative subset of the larger group. But wait, you might be thinking, why don't we just measure the entire population every time, right? If we want the most accurate data, why not just literally ask all 300 million people who they're voting for? Well, it's simple. Doing that costs way too much time and way too much money. It's just entirely impractical. Sampling is this powerful workaround that saves us from having to, drink the whole pot of soup.
Section 3, parameters and statistics. So we've got our population and our sample. What do we actually call the math we do on these things?
Okay, pause. Listen up, because this is one of the most important concepts to lock into your memory today. Notice the alliteration here. It's a great memory trick. A parameter is a numerical characteristic of the whole population. P goes with P. A statistic is a number that represents a property of the sample. S goes with S. If you get an average from the entire population, parameter. If it's just from your sample, statistic. Our whole goal in inferential statistics is to use that sample statistic to accurately estimate the hidden population parameter. Let's do a really quick retention check to make sure this is clicking. Say we want to know the average GPA of first-year students at ABC College. We randomly pick 100 of them, and we calculate their average GPA. Is the number we just found a statistic or a parameter? Think back to that PP and SS rule.
It's a statistic. Yeah, because we only looked at a 100-student sample, the result is a sample statistic. Now, if we had somehow tracked down every single first-year student at the entire college and averaged all their grades, then we'd have the true population parameter. Makes sense, right?
Section 4. Applying the terms to real-world examples. Let's see how this all builds by connecting these abstract ideas to some actual scientific studies.
Take the National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB. They did a study on car safety, crashing cars with dummies in the front seat into a wall at 35 miles per hour to check for head injuries. Let's break it down. The population is all cars with dummies in the front seat, but obviously they can't crash every single car on Earth, so they took a sample of 75 cars. The sample statistic, that's the proportion of dummies in just those 75 cars that got head injuries. And what are they trying to estimate? The population parameter, the true proportion of all driver dummies in all cars that would suffer head injuries.
Let's lock this in with one more example. Say a survey is checking how fast a 30-watt charger brings an Android mobile from 50% to 100% battery, specifically looking for the proportion that charge in under 30 minutes. The population is literally all Android mobiles using this specific charger, but they only test a sample of 200 mobiles. So, when they calculate the percentage of those 200 specific phones that successfully charged in time, that right there is our sample statistic.
Section 5. Variables and data types. Let's zoom in even further. We've gone from the giant population down to the sample. Now let's look at the micro level, the specific things we're actually measuring. This brings us to variables. A variable is simply a characteristic or measurement that can be determined for each individual member of a population. You'll usually see them written as capital letters, like X or Y. If we're surveying students, variable X could be amount of money spent on textbooks. It varies from student to student, which is literally why we call it a variable. Variables generally come in two flavors. First, numerical variables. These are values with equal units, like weight in pounds or time in hours. The main takeaway here is that doing math on numerical variables makes perfect sense. You can easily calculate an average weight. On the flip side, we have categorical variables. These just place a person or thing into a category, like, say, political party affiliation. It makes absolutely zero mathematical sense to try to calculate the average of Democrat, Republican, and Independent. It's just a category. And finally, when we actually go out there and measure these variables, the answers we write down are called data. Data are the actual, real-world values of the variable. They can be numbers, like $150, or words, like Republican. Oh, and fun fact for your next trivia night, data is actually plural. If you're talking about just one single value, the word is technically datum. Section 6. Summary and final application. Before we wrap up this explainer, let's pull the whole puzzle together, summarize our journey from macro to micro, and test what we've learned. The logical flow of the entire statistical process works perfectly step by step. Step 1, define the massive population you want to understand. Step 2, since you can't measure everyone, draw a representative sample. Step 3, go to the individuals in that sample and collect data on specific variables. Step 4, organize that data and calculate a numerical sample statistic. And finally, step 5, use inferential statistics to estimate that true population parameter. It's just this beautiful logical loop. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought to really test if this clicked. Imagine an insurance company randomly selects 500 doctors from a massive directory to see who's been involved in a malpractice lawsuit. You know the 500 doctors is the sample, but what exactly is the parameter they are trying to estimate? Think about the ultimate goal of their survey for that entire directory. Keep that turning over in your mind, and when you're ready to find out the answer and dive deeper into how we gather data, I'll see you in the next explainer.